Alright, I'm sorry. Just please, look at this man's face. I don't think I need to make any jokes about it. This blobfish works for the Telegraph. He wrote a hit piece for me that was poor even for the Telegraph standards. And let's not forget, that's basically a bookie spreadsheet with ads for Bing Lee in it, if that company still even operates. Because honestly, with prices that low, how the f*** do they turn a profit? Don't they still do the buy one dishwasher, get 7 dishwasher free? When I asked for his number so I could have right of reply, he bitched out, wouldn't give it, as I'm pretty sure he's Stuart Little's dad. He also has the perfect name for a man whose voice sounds like he's some shit guide in an 80s children's fantasy movie. James Morrow. That's not an exaggeration. Listen to this nerd.
But not so fast, because, as with so much else of Joe Biden's recovery efforts, it's not as straightforward as just cutting checks. No, it's also about making hardworking and struggling business owners jump through the hoops of identity politics and critical race theory.
Come on. That man has never had sex, and he fantasizes about having sex with elves. Surely this music just naturally plays in his mind when he speaks.
It's all about whether you're ticking the right identity box, are a victim of society, or even better, capitalism and the system. Not how hard you were hit by the pandemic or your local government's response to it.
Call for labor figures to cut tithe with YouTuber Friendlyjordies. Cool. Such a lame choice of word. I call on my mage priest. Thither! Use magic wand to get me an elvish girlfriend. Yeah, well, I call on you with your little Where's Wally glasses to get a drone shot of you at Bondi Beach on a busy day so you could look like a real-life Where's Wally puzzle. I'm going to help you out here, Jamesy boy. This is why you weren't good enough for Fox News. You kicked 3 own goals in your own headline. You're so unoriginal, you just stole the Sydney Morning Herald's piss week attack of, you should distance yourself. That's like pretty to say. In the process, you completely destroyed the Telegraph's only populist illusion, which is, what is it with all these softcocks not being able to take a joke? Anyway, here's resident softcock James Morrow not being able to take a joke. A foul-mouthed internet comedian who has made videos has been caught out delivering vile sexist tirades against high-profile Australian women. Cuck. This is from the same free speech warrior. Actually, warrior's too strong of a word. Camp follower, who has recorded hours of himself wheezing comments like,
when I was a kid, the left was all about free speech.
Yep.
It was free speech. It was, it was Lenny Bruce. It was George Carlin. It was right to say dirty words on television. It was right to have your pornography and everything else.
Contradictory cuck. James, this is kindergarten stuff. You don't need to add anything to these statements. Here's you saying one thing, and then here's you saying the exact opposite out of pure personal convenience to keep your minor league Fox News job. Me pointing out how stupid and hypocritical you are makes me feel like one of those chefs next to Jamie Oliver that says, no spices, yes. The flavour comes from the bull. Here's Porky Pig with Bowser saying,
but have you noticed that it's only our side of the debate that will even argue for the things we disagree with to be able to be heard?
Yeah.
Whereas the other side says deplatform, deregister,
deperson, take them out of their job. They would happily see you starving under a railway bridge and kicked out of your house because you had the wrong opinion.
And yet here you are demanding in your fucking headline that I be cancelled for my unwokeness in between filming segment after segment on Sky News about how wokeness is destroying the world. Well, it looks like you can judge a book by its cover. You're as pathetic on the inside as you look on the outside, James. Not that you're a particularly special case. Nothing separates you from the other mainstream journalists apart from the Mac DeMarco gap in your teeth. But as we'll show you using the coverage of my misunderstandings, there's no ideological divide in the press. The closest thing they have to an ideological divide is market differentiations. Certain papers will pretend to defend the bullshit vague notion of liberty, while others will defend the bullshit vague notion of equal rights that they stick to until it's even remotely convenient for them to drop, at which point they will drop it like James drops the ball every time it's his time to talk on outsiders. The entire media ecosystem, ABC, Sky, SBS, Fairfax. Well, there is one news source you can trust, Today Extra. But other than that, these institutions are infested with awful, well-fed modern-day courtiers whose morality changes to suit the mood of the king, which actually nullifies the point in the video we just played of you, James, as nothing has changed since Jesterdays, let alone Lenny Bruce days, as here I am, a comedian, demanding my right to offend, while you, some mouthpiece square, is getting your jowls in a knot about, you shouldn't say penis snake. We all know the only reason that one triggered you is because you wish your penis looked like a penis snake. The only difference I can see between now and Lenny Bruce days is if this were the 50s, you'd be chastising me in between shilling smokes and spouting the evils of communism and... Hang on.
The business of the Democrats' problems with China, the totalitarian Chinese Communist Party.
Holy shit. Not even that's changed. Nor is the shilling smokes. The only thing that's changed is news presenters back then looked cool smoking. You think you look cool smoking, but I'll tell ya, it's betrayed very quickly by the fact that your eyes nervously dart off camera to see if your beer will hit your mouth. I know you have this fantasy that you're sort of this off-brand Tucker Carlson, but in reality, you're an off-brand Steve Higgins, dude. Look at your position on the couch. You are Steve Higgins to Frankenstein cherub. The first reason you're not Tucker Carlson is he has a personality. You just have a personality disorder. The second is he's actually smart. You just think you're smart because when Outsiders stops filming, they lock you inside with your little smoker and a bucket to shit in the corner. And because you're permanently trapped in that little bubble, you think, what a fiendish Dungeons and Dragons play. As Sky News only ever reports on how woke labor is, it must be true. After all, Rita Panay says it. Therefore, they'll be forced to eat their own words that we've put in their mouth, like I've so annoyingly plopped this meat into mine. What people in the press are incapable of understanding, because they are just verbal prostitutes, is that even if I woke up in the middle of the night to find Albo taking a shit in my mouth, I'd gobble it up like you gobbled up your smoked meats, which... every time I see that, it's like the clown in Dead Silence. Don't you think that image is more disturbing than the thought of me eating shit? We got close enough with the squid back in the day, but you know why I would eat the shit? Because my interests in politics extends a little further than, how can I afford more wood chips for my smoker? My interest is stopping koala habitat from turning into wood chips for your smoker. I care about the country. You, on the other hand, are only here because you're too shit for Fox News. Don't kid yourself, James. If you ever met Trump, as soon as he left his gold Florida palace, he'd say, what a low-energy loser. The revelations come with Jordan Shanks. Revelations? I called Lisa Wilkinson a chimp publicly. You wouldn't know this because you don't really have a public profile, James. To put you in perspective, Nikki Webster present day is more famous than you are. But when you publish something publicly, that's not a revelation, dude. You know what is a revelation? The discovery that if you sliced off one of your several chins, it actually bled blood instead of custard. Another example of a revelation would be that Nicole Flint used the exact examples of my vile sexist attacks in her parliamentary speech, where she again demanded that Labour distance themselves. Oh! This article right here is all the proof you need that the Murdoch press isn't there to hold the Liberals to account. They're there to feed the Liberals' lines. Bag Lady here is just one of their many puppets who really blurs the lines between the corporate political nexus, as she used to be an Adelaide version of James Morrow, so even less talented, which is why she needs her angles fed to her by an even less talented Rowan Dean. Just putting that out there to anybody who says, yeah, but Sky News and the Telegraph are the only ones that tell it like it is. They do that because it serves their political purpose of getting the coalition elected. But as soon as someone comes along and says, F that, you can say un-PC shit and want public schools properly funded, vote Labour, then go watch Jonah from Tonga because it's fucking mad. Watch the Telegraph, proud publisher of such articles as political correctness has killed the Aussie larrikin. Political correctness is the enemy of creativity. Oh my God, he called Deb Frecklington a cockroach. Misogyny is alive and well. You know what else this article proves? They're really chopping down the doors of the Titanic and using them as a life raft if they're resorting to this, as they know that we represent the views of the average Australian far better than any of these aristocratic pamphlets masquerading as papers ever could. Staging this never-ending back and forth about whether it's right or wrong to say un-PC things, to distract you from the fact that the government they're barracking for has stripped away any rights you have to say anything at all, really. We, on the other hand, just do say un-PC shit unapologetically because we're normal f***ing human beings who like joking around and don't like severe environmental and economic theft that this man, who looks like a far genetically superior version of you, James, is currently undertaking in this country. Press class, on the other hand, are the exact opposite of that. They're just the latest incarnation of the whole, it's not proper to speak in such a manner, it's unbecoming of a gentleman. It's always been used as a method of shutting the working class out, of stating that we want a government that works for us, not your bosses. And And we want the right to pay out your pathetic worship of these quote-unquote girl bosses. In short, f*** you, James, you f***ing foreigner. Don't come here to mooch off Murdoch's Centrelink because you weren't good enough for the big leagues. At least if you are, do something of value to this land. Dive into the Sydney Aquarium jellyfish tank, meld in with your invertebrate brethren and retitle the display The World's Hardest Where's Wally Puzzle. Chuck us some cash on Patreon so we can ramp up our spray on these parasites, because as you can tell from this coordinated assault, the bigger we get, the more nervous these jellyfish become. So at the very least, do subscribe and like, kids. And remember, Chris Lilly's awesome, and so are public hospitals. And so Sean McAuliffe.
Say the government proposes some projects that are necessary and some that are blatant pork barrelling. If we don't get elected, none of them will happen. If you want your precious legitimate projects funded, it's in your interest that we rort as many other things as possible to get over the line. Now, is there anything else you want to bother me with, Friendlyjordies, or is that it?
Not back at you, buddy.
Please share and comment below. Comment.